You wouldn't play the game for money, but if you lost, you just had to go home.
I still would be pretty low interest. Yeah, it doesn't really appeal to me.
The premise is that you're winning $90,000.
I know, but
You just
I don't
be
know.
like, too much work to get drugged in the car and go out to the island. And
Yeah, I don't know.
hello, everyone. Welcome to the Two Socks Podcast. This is going to be our Squid Games episode. So if you haven't seen it, just a fair warning, we got some spoilers for you. We interviewed some guests for this week's episode. They phoned in through Instagram, giving their hot takes. So we're going to discuss each of their hot takes. And so we have Chris, Courtney, and Brooke on the podcast today. Say hi, everybody.
Hi. Yeah, all at one time. Hi, guys.
Yaman had the most energy for sure there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Baritone.
All right, first up to introduce themselves and their hot take is Courtney Potts. Hey, Courtney, how's it going?
Hey, I don't hear you at all in the other room.
Yeah, I was going to say, can't remember the last time we saw each other, but so you gave a hot take on Instagram, that's correct?
Yeah, I gave a silly one.
Oh boy.
Maybe like a lukewarm take.
Yeah. I mean,
And you volunteered to come here, so you're here. Let's hear it. What you got? Let's see what you got.
Well, it's crazy, honestly.
So that was your hot take?
Yeah, that's what I wrote.
I love it.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
But I mean, to go into it a little more, me and my coworkers were talking today about it, and we were talking about trunk or treat. And one of my coworkers was like, "Yeah, I volunteered to trunk or treat," and I was like, "Yeah, well, like, what's the hip new thing that like elementary school kids are into?" Because we were talking about like how to decorate the trunk, and they were like, "Squid Games," and I was like, absolutely not. I really hope that kids aren't watching Squid Games because it is very violent.
Well, you raise a lot of good points there. I'd like to dissect each one by one. So we'll start with the former there, your kids' take on it. It's funny though, because yes, I would say the show as a whole isn't really meant for kids, as the rating on Netflix would suggest, but they're in fact playing kids games the whole time. So it's actually games that are meant for kids. The Squid Game is a kids game in itself, so it's kind of hard to separate the two there. I guess you don't want real life kids watching it, but at the same time, like it's the essence of the show is the kid part, the joy of playing the kids' games.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to know the background behind it. Like, the writer of the show, like, did he have some, I don't know, bad childhood with like kids' games that he just wanted to like make a show like this? Or like, I don't know, kind of spooky?
Basically, the old man.
Yeah, he creeps me out.
Well,
I love him.
To also go off, also for those listening that may not realize, Nikki has not finished the whole show yet. So we're going to be talking about spoilers, but we're also going to be spoiling for her, unfortunately. But yeah, she likes the old man, for those that didn't hear it.
He's too happy.
Yeah, can we ask Nikki, what do you like about the old man?
Oh, yeah.
I just
This is
think
important.
he's like a sweet, genuine. I mean, now I'm getting the feeling that he's deceptive from Devin, but I just thought he's like such a cute, sweet, old, innocent dude.
No, it's fair. We can move on to the second point I wanted to talk about, to break down the hot take itself, that it's crazy, honestly. And I'm going to actually have to agree with this hot take. It's actually really not that crazy of a story when you think about it. Kind of a dystopian type of reality. Kind of echoes A Brave New World, 1984, and more recently The Hunger Games. But the thing that makes Squid Games a little bit crazier than these is, although it is in kind of a dystopian reality, it is not a future dystopian. It is taking place in modern day South Korea, whereas these other works of art I've mentioned are taking place in the future. Now, 1984 is taking place in 1984, but it was written in 1949. So
Jeez,
it was
Devin, you know all the facts.
so it was taking a look at the future and seeing where we're going to be progressing as a society. Whereas the Squid Games is trying to say this is where we are right now, based on the steps that we have taken in the past, 10, 20, 30 years. And it kind of echoes South Korea's financial situation. And I think it actually has a lot of parallels to America's financial situation, too.
Yeah.
So to say that it's crazy, honestly, I would have to agree.
On the point of kids being into Squid Games, I found that really interesting that you brought that up, Courtney, because I just watched a streamer play Squid Games on Roblox, which apparently is like a kids thing. Like, yeah, like they have like the Squid Games in Roblox, and I watched PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye just beat on 9-year-olds.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Yeah, so apparently kids are really into Squid Games.
Oh
which is
no.
really bad.
Courtney, what age group do you teach? Like, what age group is the trunk or treat for?
Oh, so it's not like anything to do with me. It has to do with my coworker.
How young are we talking? Like middle schoolers? I understand.
Elementary school.
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
yeah, let's. I would say that's completely inappropriate for elementary school kids.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't let my elementary school kid watch that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's one of those things that is just so kind of like in the mainstream and so popular that kids don't even have to see it to reference it exactly. Like there's just so many references here and there. Like for example, like what Brooke said that people are playing Squid Games on Roblox. Kids may not even seen Squid Games, but like they know Roblox and they know their streamer and he's playing Squid Games, so like they kind of connect to it just through a different avenue. So like I think they understand like the imagery, like the circles and the triangles and the X's or whatever like are on the people's faces, like the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's also so many memes too. Just the way that information spreads nowadays. I'm sure elementary school kids have been exposed to it in some way, even if they're not watching the show.
Well, I would like to see a poll of how many kids have watched Squid Game so far.
I mean, the real question is, are they going to watch it with subtitles or are they going to watch it with the English dub? So I think we can move on to our next guest, our next hot take.
That's you, Brooke.
That is me. Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
No intro for Brooke. Just get right into it.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess I'm going to start by asking, Nikki, how far into the show are you?
I finished the Tug of War episode.
Oh, no. Okay.
It's fine. There's gonna be spoilers. I have some hot takes that are very like
it's
at the
fine.
end.
My entire hot take is gonna be a spoiler for you, Nikki. I apologize.
It's fine.
So my hot take is that despite what we may have thought on screen, Ali is alive. I believe.
Oh my god, you ruined it for me.
Nikki!
Just kidding.
Don't do that to me. I already feel bad.
I'm kidding.
I also believe that he will make a reappearance in season 2, if there is one, which I would again bet on the ponies that there will be. And I think that he will help Ji-hun take the games down.
Part of me wonders, because like I didn't really assume that any of the deaths in the show weren't legitimate, because I mean, if you're gonna kill any of these people, why would you not kill all of these? Like they'd already killed so many people. It's like, why would anyone be living? And part of me wonders, because like I had like looked up some of the like hot takes of Squid Game, and like yeah, this was for sure one of them. And the main argument that I had read was essentially just that like they didn't show it on screen, much like they didn't show it with number 1. But the difference is like his like reason for not being dead was like he literally ran the whole thing. So it's kind of like I don't know if it's fair to presume that anyone else would have gotten through. I'll be curious to hear what your evidence is.
Because saying Wu cheated, that might be like reason to be like, okay, like don't kill him. And there's an interesting thing that I saw today, that when he walks away from Ali, when he sends Ali to like go find more players, he walks immediately up to somebody in a red suit and goes like, hey, this is what I did. I technically didn't break the rules. Let me in. And that's like immediately. And Ali was searching for more players for about 5 minutes until the 3-minute mark hit. And then he went to the meeting spot, and Sang-woo wasn't there. He was calling Sang-woo's name, and Sang-woo turned around, meaning he was still on the game floor. He could still hear him. So he was there for 5 minutes. They didn't escort him out. And I thought in those 5 minutes, either they were deciding what to do with Sang-woo, and then they had time to coordinate, like, hey, get this guy out. Like, we're keeping him, blah, blah, blah. My main piece of evidence is, why would they do this? And I want to bring up his hand. If you watch the tug of war episode, you would have seen a scene where they showed that Ali is missing knuckles on his one hand. Sang-woo told him to hide it because it could be seen as a weakness. Clearly, throughout the episode, it did not hurt Ali to find a partner and to complete the tug of war task. So they survived, and then the hand was not mentioned before that episode, and I don't believe it was even shown before. And then it was not mentioned or hindered him afterwards. So why would they take the time to give this actor that disability? And I think it's an amazing plot point if in the second season, if he's a red man, and if Ji-hun becomes the front man, he's going to be looking for an accomplice, somebody to help him take down the games, and somehow he's either going to shake Ellie's hand, or he's going to like see someone pull off a glove, and he's going to notice the injury, and that's going to be how he's like, holy shit, I have an accomplice here.
My mind is blown.
I told you, I heard this on TikTok. I was like, oh, that's fun. And then when I rewatched the episode, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Some have speculated that in the very beginning, when they play that game with the red and the blue pieces of paper or whatever, that those that choose blue end up wearing the green suits as players, which is closer to blue, and then the guards wear the pink color if you chose red. And so that has something to do with it. Because you're right, being a guard is not much better than being a player. I think that is also has something to do with, maybe like a statement on class, society, or something like that. The Ali with his fingers thing, I think, is a really good point. I do think that it's mentioned or shown before the tug of war episode, but you're definitely right that he references it there to say to hide it, like as a point of foreshadowing almost. But it never pays off. It never affects the story the rest of the way.
No, and then I even thought further. I was like, well, these workers, they are told to be completely anonymous, like they can't show their faces. Their masks clearly like change their voices, like they almost have like a robotic tone, making me think that they have like voice changers. And they say it's like for safety, but I don't know if it's for safety of like the people, if the games are ever like veiled or like revealed to the public, and the police come after them, or if it's for the safety of the games, meaning like if they are past players, then you don't want you like showing your face to other people and being like, wait, I was in the games with you, we were in an alliance, or like whatnot, or like let's band together. I didn't know. That was something I thought too. And then that made me think like that would be another way. The hand would be a way for Ji-hun to immediately know that this is Ali, because who else is going to have that same injury?
Now, my only piece of evidence to go against this theory would be the episode where, after the first episode, when they all decide by majority to go back home and try and live a regular life, each of the main characters ends up doing something that foreshadows how their story ends or how they die. So the protagonist, the main character, meets with the old man, and how does the old man die? He meets the protagonist in the end. The like mob boss guy with a tattoo on his face, he jumps off a bridge to escape a bunch of people. He ends up falling off of the bridge game. The pickpocket character ends up putting a knife to the throat of that person trying to intimidate them, and she ends up getting her throat slit in the end. the one character tries to commit suicide or goes into a tub and then thinks different of it, but then eventually does commit suicide in the final Squid Game. And then finally, Ali's character, he takes the money from the boss and runs away with it, where someone took his marbles and ran away with it. And so that they all kind of like rhyme or foreshadow what's going to happen to the person. So in that case, I mean, it doesn't necessarily say that Ali has to die, but it just kind of would make sense that all the other characters die in that way.
I do want to say that you like blew my mind. I didn't realize any of those things. So as you were describing H1, I was sitting here like, what? So that was really cool.
Yeah, I want to say that I thought it was interesting. The one scene that I didn't agree with and or thought was very out of character was when Sang-woo decides to kill himself, because I do not think that was like remotely in his character, and it really like bothered me that they chose that twist. But then that, for me, kind of like implied that they'd choose other like dramatic effect twists that might be like out of character for the sake of being like, isn't this dramatic? So I almost feel like I'm more inclined to believe that like this sort of thing could be accurate, only because it felt like the writers took some liberty in what they allowed to have happen.
I think he knows at that point that he can't win. They could vote to stop, but then neither of them gain anything. And so I think he's thinking if he kills himself, then the protagonist gets the fortune and then could help his mom out, or pay off some of his debts or whatever, so people don't come for his mom's store.
Well, his whole thing throughout the show, though, was I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win. And when given the knife, and when 456 comes like back within range of him, and he could have definitely chosen to kill him. Like other people have argued with me that they're like, no, like he couldn't have like physically been able to do it. And I was like, okay, to be fair, like, and I'm gonna use their numbers just because I feel like I never remembered people's names. Like, like the protagonist 456, he had literally been stabbed 3 times. I think it was like the hip, like, and I think in the stomach at one point, and I feel like there was one other place. Oh, in the hand. It seemed like a fight that the protagonist should have lost, and I felt like the fact that 218 decided to kill himself when he was at an advantage, and the only real reason to do so was, in my opinion, dramatic effect. I was surprised that was the route it went. All right. Well, this was an interesting hot take, Book. Thank you.
No problem.
Shall we move on to our third and final hot take here? All right, Yam, let's hear it, dude. What you got?
I remember I said somebody, I can't remember if it was Schauble or Fry. I think it was Schauble. Wouldn't make it past the second round, or whatever it is, the cookie round.
Oh.
Dude, that round sounded brutal, especially if you got the umbrella. I mean, like, good lord.
I think he'd be patient enough for that one. Like, after the first person got shot, I feel like you would be you'd be smart enough to be like, okay, I'm taking this slow. I'm not going crazy here.
But it raises the question of like, what would it take to get you to be a participant? Like, if you get to watch a show and you know all the games beforehand, and like you get to train for a couple of weeks or maybe like a month, and then you get to go compete against everyone that has no idea what's going on, just like they did in the first episode. Like, do you think you could make it all the way? Like, if you knew all the little secrets and tips and tricks and got to train for it?
It wouldn't really appeal to me. Like, I feel like I would have to be in really dire circumstances or be like not in a good mental headspace to have an interest in such a thing.
So if given the opportunity, it sounds like you would not do it.
No.
All right, well, let's sweeten the deal a little bit. So not only do you get to know the games beforehand, they're the same games in the show, and no one else knows. You also get to train for those couple of weeks to a month, however long you feel like you need within reason. What if you also get to split the money with the others rather than the dead people getting the money? And so you can split the money if you get a majority vote of people to stop playing, and you can initiate the vote at any time. So, like, that being said, you could split a decent amount of money just after the red light, green light, cut your losses, and head out. One game for your whole life. But you're going to make around $90,000 for that one game for red light, green light.
I personally would still probably not be very interested, but I'm curious if anyone else has different feelings, or I don't know. Feels like even if there wasn't the possibility of death, even if it was like just do you want to go play this game for money, I'd still potentially be disinterested. The death just makes it particularly like absolutely not. That's not really high on my list.
You wouldn't play the game for money, but if you lost, you just had to go home.
I still would be pretty low interest. Yeah, it doesn't really appeal to me.
The premise is that you're winning $90,000.
I know, but
You
I don't
just
know.
like, too much work to get drugged in the car and go out to the island. And
Yeah, I don't know. The interesting thing in my mind, this is actually what I thought you were initially going to ask, Alex, when you suggested that we watch this show and talk about it. And you had said, "Oh, you only need to finish the first episode to like talk about what I want to talk about." I thought you were going to ask essentially, do you think people ought to have the opportunity to essentially gamble with their lives, like on a
Right.
game show? Because I kind of assumed that that was the first most philosophical question.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the things I wanted to chat about is, the allegory of like, could this happen? Are we as a society or as a world like headed towards this in a few years or maybe more than that? And the ethics behind that, obviously.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was happening in certain countries now that aren't doing televised versions of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, in
things we don't
history,
know
I mean,
about.
you look at like Gladiators, right? It's a similar type of thing where
Yeah.
you had similar things like this pop up in history.
I was gonna
And
say they used to just
repeat itself.
like the big thing on Friday is like, oh, let's go to the town hall. We're gonna watch some guy get his head chopped off. Like they're gonna do a bunch of beheadings. Like, and it wasn't even that long ago. Like in the '90s in Saudi Arabia, like they would do beheadings like in town square. Like if you're visiting,
Yeah.
like you could just stumble into one.
Not even just beheadings. Like people would do like stonings. It's like, hey, do you not only want to watch it but also take part in it? Like yeah. No, it's not far
Yeah,
fetched to
but
think that this is somewhere happening because we, like you said, we do have a history of it.
This is the type of thing when people blame graphic TV shows like Squid Games and movies and other media, like for why there's so much violence in the world today, or not to get too political, but like why there's shootings and stuff like that, like because there's so much violence in the media. Where I'm like thinking, 1,000 years ago there was much more real life violence that you could see. The
Yeah, but
violence of the youth.
it's putting it back into real life is my argument. Not the same thing, but it's still bringing violence back into especially younger kids' lives if they're exposed to it, which makes it normal.
So when we put up the poll on our Instagram, follow Two Socks Podcast for some polls in the future. We'll go into our first one that we received from an individual who said that their hot take on Squid Game was that the old man did nothing wrong.
I guess my first question is like, presumably they mean in regards to the creation of the game, right? Not his interest in playing it.
He's saying the old man did nothing wrong ever, basically. He did nothing wrong establishing the games. He did nothing wrong playing the games. He did nothing wrong pulling the strings. I would have to say that's pretty hot.
That is definitely a hot take.
He lied.
I kind of have like an issue with him putting himself in the games because he didn't actually play the games the way everybody else did. Like his life was never on the line. And so like that was kind of wrong, but I guess apples to oranges compared to constantly being the cause of over 400 people.
Yeah, people got their face shot off for because the games weren't kept fair. He could be taking a spot from someone else, and so it's not.
No
truly
wonder
fair.
why he was so happy.
No.
He was
I
like, I ain't gonna die.
I feel as though like they only chose to keep him alive at the end because like, I mean, from a dramatic like show writing perspective, it wouldn't have been interesting, I guess, if they just like revealed later that he had been like the creator of the game had he not also lived through the game. In my mind,
Yeah.
you were expected to believe that had he failed any of the challenges, he would have been killed. It was just that it happened to be that challenge where he got paired up in a situation where they could just like remove him quietly, it was like fine to do so. I think if he had lost in any of the other challenges, like you're presumed that he would have been killed on the spot. But maybe not. I mean, maybe that's a not correct interpretation of what was like his role in the show.
All right, on to the next hot take. He said the cop that was shot and fell off the cliff is definitely not dead.
I feel like the cop had such a like interesting like solo path that unless that was strictly to give the viewer insight to like what was going on, like the fact that his brother's running it and then just like kills him in cold blood was kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I could see him being alive, but that's with literally no basis other than he fell into the water. And I feel like in most dramatic scenes that somebody falls into water, it's like they could live.
I feel like, yeah, any chance they got to kill somebody, they either shot them in the head or they like used a machine gun on them if they were running. I'm pretty sure the red guys had like semi-automatics on them. And then doesn't the front man say when he like gets to the island, he's like, I want him alive.
Right.
So it's like he didn't want any of the red guys to shoot him. He wanted to be the one to confront his, and he had to know like at that point, like it was his brother, or I think he did at that point. And even if like he didn't, he wanted the person alive, and then he faces off and sees it's his brother. I don't think that'd be a reason of like, oh man, it's even more reason to kill you now that I just told everybody to keep you alive. So I don't know. Oh, this got me thinking. That's a good hot take.
Yeah, Potts, Dev, Yaman, what are your thoughts? Do you think he's still alive?
No, no
He's
way.
definitely alive. Picked him up.
Sounds like we got a no, a yes, and this is all very interesting.
I mean, I don't think he was alive just because of the fact that how are they gonna set something up like that? Like, I don't know. He had no idea it was his brother until he actually took his mask off. Like, how are you gonna set up like a whole fake thing or like catch his brother on the side of the cliff? The only way he'd be alive is if he fell into the water and survived somehow that way. But I don't think that happened. So
Yeah, that's fair. Any rebuttal? No.
no
Nah,
rebuttal.
I think we covered all angles.
All right. I dig it. All right, for the last hot take of the night, someone wrote in, one of our fans, and said that Squid Game would have been much better as a one-season show, like a mini-series.
I have
So,
something to say about this, but if anyone wants to weigh in first, by all means.
yeah, no, I thought it goes back to what Brooke was talking about, saying that Netflix has the money. Of course, they're not going to pump it into season 2. So I'm curious if you guys think it detracts from the story opening it up to a second season or not.
I know I've been like talking season two. I will say if it had more closure, if like these like loose ends weren't there, I would have been very happy if Squid Game was a limited series because there's no like fear of them like ruining it or like, not even like them ruining it, but I think once you have like a first season as good as this that like hits number 1 on Netflix, then in the time frame where they're making the next one, you get like your hopes up and you expect to kind of get the same like shock value, and that's just not easy to recreate the second time around.
I think you really have to wait until season 2 comes out to fully say if this hot take was hot or not, because we had obviously a pretty good first season, and they could have tied up a couple of loose ends here and there, and really shut the door on this. But if the creator, the director, the writers, if they saw this story further than just one season, and it's all there's hints and foreshadowing and other things that play, and you need a second season to tell a cohesive story still, and we don't even know what that part of the story is yet, then I mean it's going to be better as 2 seasons. But if they're doing it just because they're like, okay, well, we finished 1 season, we have no idea what we're going to do for a second season, but Netflix wants another, so we're going to come up with something, then yeah, obviously I don't think the product will be as good. I was going to say Yaman should do our outro this week.
I don't know if I
Something
want to give
Squid
Yaman that
Game.
much free reign, dude.
What are you
I'd be
talking
like,
about?
so balls.
I'll just say that cash rules everything around me. Cream. Get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. And diversify your bonds.
I dig
Let's
it.
go.
It's Wu-Tang Wednesday. It's Wu-Tang Wednesday, y'all.